Only in crypto could the desire for rule of law be perceived as something worthy of being frowned upon. Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. In this article, I'm going to share with you an article from A&B Crypto on just that concept. I've also got a rather fascinating article from CoinDesk. It talks about developments with R3, a new way in which their smart contracts can be used, and I want to talk about how that intertwines with, hopefully, XRP. There's also cool article from bizjournals.com about Ripple Spring Initiative, so I want to share just a little bit on that, and I'll close out the video by sharing with you a non-XRP related story from Cointelegraph, and it's about a judge who dismissed a libel suit that Craig Wright brought against Roger Ver. I just find it fascinating for any of you that want to stick around for that portion of the video, especially if you've been following any of the drama going on there, how you might find it entertaining. So anyway, before we get going, if you would please delicately tap that like button, and if you are a fan of Ripple and XRP, you have selected the right video to watch. You are amongst friends here. This is an XRP-centric channel. Thank you so much for the support. I appreciate all the likes and subscribing and comments, and even if you don't do any of that, even if you're just watching, thank you very much. So here's a piece from A&B Crypto, and it is titled, XRP hangs onto Bitcoin Bull's coattails despite divisive letter to U.S. Congress. Yes, that's right. You know what I'm talking about, right? The letter that was penned by Brad Garlinghouse, Ripple CEO, and Ripple co-founder Chris Larson. It was a fine piece. I've covered it in a couple of my recent videos, and they were stressing the importance of well, among other things, the rule of law. Working with regulators to have a regulatory framework that law-abiding citizens can go by. That's seen as divisive within the crypto community here, by some anyway. Not by me, and I suppose probably not by anybody in the XRP community, because it's completely nonsensical to have that stance. So let me share with you a little bit of this stupid article. As all eyes descended on Capitol Hill for the Senate Banking Committee hearing on the regulatory framework for digital currencies, the price charts may have been neglected. Despite Bitcoin holding above 9,500, the 9,500 mark, however, it was XRP that stole the limelight. Earlier this week, Brad Garlinghouse and Ripple had issued a letter to Congress asking them to not paint all digital currencies with a broad brush, and affirmed Ripple's support for financial stability, sustainability behind, and not against the dollar. Ooh, yes, indeed, highly controversial. Can you believe the nerve of these guys? Ooh, really grinds my gears, right? It's getting you all hot. I'm telling you. All right, even as Ripple primed itself in firm opposition against the collective cryptocurrency community. Love that sentence. I'm going to read that one more time. Even as Ripple primed itself in firm opposition against the collective cryptocurrency community, then what are you, a bunch of anarchists? What are you against here exactly? My lord, this is completely juvenile. I cannot get behind stuff like this whole mindset. And this is what Bitcoin was born out of. It's an ideology that says down with banks and down with the government. Well, you know what? I'm not behind that. I want governments to exist so that we don't have anarchy. I want banks to exist because they serve communities. They're mostly small businesses. By and large, they help people. You can find bad actors in any group. I'm sure you can find them in the XRP community because it's a group. It's any group, though. But by and large, banks are not the enemy. You know, they're offering loans. They hold your money. They do all sorts of stuff. They create jobs within their respective communities. And that way people that work there can support their families. And the kids can grow up with a meal on the table. Like, this is completely nonsensical point of view. And did the entire collective cryptocurrency community indeed respond in firm opposition? Well, not the adults. Not the adults. And you know what's additionally funny to me is that Bitcoin, and I've made this point recently, I want to say it again in case you haven't heard it, Bitcoin is a decentralized cryptocurrency. XRP is a decentralized cryptocurrency. What you can do with one, you can do with the other. You could use Bitcoin to buy stuff. I mean, I don't advise that. It's slow. You could use XRP to buy stuff. Find another party that has XRP and peer-to-peer cashless system. You can absolutely use it for that if you want to. That's not what people by and large are using crypto for today. There are a lot of reasons for that, but you can do that. On the same note, you can use XRP as a bridge currency as Ripple intends it for cross-border transactions. You could use Bitcoin for the same purpose. You could, if a developer were to build technology on top of the Bitcoin blockchain to allow that. There's nothing stopping anybody to do that. Now, of course, people don't want to use Bitcoin for that purpose because it's very costly to conduct a transaction, and it's very slow and very energy intensive. XRP doesn't have those problems, so of course XRP technologically is superior, no question. And I would argue that XRP is more decentralized than Bitcoin, outside the scope of this conversation, but I firmly believe that. And so you can use them. You can use them for anything. So when you're talking about, when you're talking about the perspectives that people have within cryptocurrency communities, what are you really talking about here? You can use either coin for anything. So what? Ripple wants that to be regulated in a responsible fashion, and the rest don't, even though you can use either coin for either. I'm not even convinced that Bitcoin maximalists, by and large, realize that you could use Bitcoin for the same purpose that Ripple seeks to position XRP to be used for. I think that it's completely lost on them. And to me, it's a completely absurd and ridiculous position. And when I see stuff like this, I'm happy to call it out. It needs to be said. And people just don't get the big picture here. And I appreciate and applaud what Ripple's doing, being the adults in the room. And it's like they're dragging the kids down the hall, kicking and screaming, because they're not getting their way. Apparently, it's just ridiculous. But I see a future potentially. I'm not going to rule this out. I don't know for sure if this will happen, but I could see a world where perhaps at some point cryptocurrencies are used to buy stuff. There's a lot of technological hurdles to overcome, and there's going to be a lot more adoption needed to make that happen. And if that, as a result, means that it's less necessary to have intermediaries and less necessary to have a cryptocurrency like XRP as a bridge currency, if that happens down the road, well, that's fine. You can use XRP for payments too. And it's not like nobody's attempting to use XRP for payments or develop platforms. How about XRPL Labs? We'd say Wynn's been getting into that, right? I've reported on that also, and I don't know the whole game plan for that, but they're developing something, and hopefully more details will come out soon. But I have seen stuff, and they're working on all sorts of things. So that's where we are, though. All right, I'm going to get off my soapbox. I'll just move on to the next piece here. But here's a piece from CoinDesk, and I want to talk about this topic as it pertains to XRP. So I need to read a little bit of it just to set the table for you. But this piece from CoinDesk titled, Blockchain Insurance Group B3I launches first product on R3's Corda network. And as you know, so there's R3, which created the Corda network. They also created Corda Settler, which is a different piece of software. And you can use Corda Settler to settle transactions, presumably smart contract transactions. And you can settle using XRP. And that's the only cryptocurrency currently that you can use to settle using the Corda Settler, but you can also settle through other means, and I've covered that in different videos, so that I'm not going to get into that in this particular video. But anyway, just want to make sure that we all understood that before moving forward. So the piece starts. B3I, a consortium startup working to use blockchain tech in the insurance industry, has launched its first product on R3's Corda platform. Revealed Wednesday, the release of B3I's version 1.0 of its property catastrophe excess of loss reinsurance product comes a year after the firm's announcement that it would use Corda to build its future products. The new CAT XOL product is aimed to bring greater speed and lower cost to the market, allowing insurers, brokers, and reinsurers to interact, negotiate, and place risk more securely and efficiently. The firm said, the B3I CAT XOL product is a first-of-its-kind proposition which provides a market-wide integrated network of B3I version 1.0 nodes. Integrating brokers with insurers and reinsurers, this provides the participants with a dedicated infrastructure for risk transfer execution, where data is not only exchanged, but also notarized and certified. That is good. So check this out. The product removes the need for some of the manual and time-consuming tasks from the process of renewing an insurance treaty. And so when you consider that last sentence that I just read, and again, understand that the Corda network, that's a smart contract platform. And so let me just read this sentence again, the very last one I read. The product removes the need for some of the manual and time-consuming tasks from the process of renewing an insurance treaty. And so, you could view that as a contract. So you can move that so that it is officially a smart contract, and there are efficiencies that come along with that. And so when I'm thinking of these like within that mindset, and what smart contracts will ultimately mean for the world, well, a lot of that remains to be seen. And a lot of the promise of that, pretty much none of the promise of it, frankly, has come to fruition. But there's potential there, especially if scaling issues can be overcome. But given that there is no cryptocurrency on within the Corda network, there are settlement options with the Corda settler that you can use, and again, one of them being XRP. So when I see things like this, it gets me thinking: will there be a world in the future where it will make sense for payouts within that will result? Well, let me say it like this: there will be a need for payments to be completed as a result of some of these smart contracts existing in the first place, and XRP is really good at moving money, right? And so it makes me wonder if some of these, especially if you need to convert a currency, if some of them could potentially be used with XRP. Because the question is, with the Corda settler, are you talking about settling to XRP, or are you talking about using XRP more as a bridge, kind of like you would with XRapid? And mind you, the settler is completely different software for XRapid, so I get that, because with XRapid you're linked into a pool of liquidity, and as far as I know, there's nothing on the internet that I've been able to find that says where a pool of liquidity would be sourced. So maybe it would be amongst the individual parties involved with any particular smart contracts to kind of figure that out for themselves. But as things develop, and it's just such early days, it does get me thinking, is there going to be a possibility for XRP to help move some of this money around the world? Because I do not envision a world where everybody is going to use the same currency to pay for stuff. That's why I don't think that Bitcoin maxis have it right. I don't think that everybody is just going to use Bitcoin one day to pay for everything. It's just not going to happen. People want different things in life, and it is as simple as that. So it makes me wonder anyway. And then it goes on here. It also ensures only relevant parties are given real-time access to the contract terms and conditions, offerings, and signatures, removing the contract uncertainty that afflicts the current manual process, explained the firm. And so that all makes perfect sense to me, conceptual, as long as you can pull this off. And it's taking what is currently necessary human labor to complete these tasks, and it's removing that, but since it's cryptographically secure, you still have the certainty. And so that's all cool to me. I just want to see if there's a possibility for cryptocurrencies to be used either to, I don't know if anybody would want to settle to a cryptocurrency, but to utilize XRP at least as a bridge. That's what I'm curious about, and there just isn't enough information out there. But when I see stuff like this, especially since I know Corda Settler utilizes XRP, it gets me thinking in that direction. And I wish I had some sort of insider knowledge, because nobody is making it clear, nobody on the planet is making it clear what the potential is for that. All right, on to the next piece here now. This is something I got from a Twitter account called Silicon Valley Business Journal. And they tweeted out, Ripple's Spring Initiative is investing $500 million in Justin Bieber manager Scooter Braun's blockchain cap and others looking to find new uses for XRP cryptocurrency. And so this has a lot to do with the Spring Initiative, which I've covered, but it was written in such a way that it was positive, and I wanted to share some of this with you here. And so the piece begins, Ripple said its Spring Initiative has committed $500 million to support more than 20 companies as the San Francisco-based company seek to expand uses for XRP cryptocurrency. Ripple, which relies on XRP and its technology and software to make cross-border payments faster and cheaper, debuted Spring in May of 2018. The initiative provides support to independent developer projects and larger-scale businesses and partnerships to build out crypto infrastructure and find innovative ways to use blockchain technology. Ripple, which works with more than 200 of the world's financial institutions and fintechs, is also supporting blockchain research at universities around the world, in addition to its corporate philanthropy efforts in the Bay Area. Ripple's strong growth gives it the resources to promote research and companies involved with blockchain technology and XRP. And so I wanted to use this as an opportunity to point out, and I'm glad to see it when it is recognized. Ripple is absolutely taking the money earned from sales of its stash of XRP and reinvesting directly to the XRP ecosystem and the crypto asset class at large. And when they're investing in the crypto asset class at large, when it's not directly XRP-related projects that are the beneficiary of these funds, understand that Ripple's whole approach is to foster, they want the whole asset class to thrive. They understand that XRP will not be the only winner within this asset class. They don't seek that. They don't think that's realistic. They don't think that's what's coming. Ripple is not, the employees at large at Ripple, they are not maximalists of XRP. They just aren't. And they understand that as things are adopted globally, it's going to benefit them. So when Ripple's investing into the asset class at large, a lot of it has to do with projects that do utilize interledger protocol. And we'll think about it this way. Think about Coil, for example, a perfect example, where they're using a blend of ILP and XRP to come up with a new way to monetize the web. Now, that's completely groundbreaking stuff. And there are all sorts of ideas that we haven't even fathomed that are going to come into existence thanks to interledger protocol. And when money needs to get moved around the world, XRP is a great way to do that. And that's a big part of why Ripple is engaging the way that they're engaging. And it's going to take a long time to see how this all unfolds, but I think, especially since XRP has been here pretty much from the beginning, there is a pool of liquidity there, and I think it's just going to keep growing as it becomes clear that XRP will have staying power thanks to all of the entities that are building on top of the XRP ledger, and there's just going to be more opportunities as interledger protocol is adopted also. All right, now this tweet I wanted to share with you. This is from J.C. Collins. He's a very sharp guy. I love following this guy on Twitter. And he writes, "I'm feeling like this is the last phase of pre-regulation volatility." I'm sorry. I got distracted. Sorry. I'm feeling like this is the last phase of pre-regulation volatility we will experience with these market conditions. After regulations, everything changes. The language and narrative are taking shape. Regulations will benefit XRP the most. Momentum is building. So let's take this as an opportunity to come pretty much full circle to the first piece that I covered in this video when I was talking about Ripple being the adults in the room, wanting things to be regulated, and that will absolutely benefit XRP. I still think, I maintain that it's good for the entire asset class. So people that think what Ripple is stating is somehow anti-crypto, this or that, that's just childish. That's nonsense. It's good for everything because you've already seen that there are entities that are not even related to XRP, like exchanges. What was that? The Circle, the subsidiary, Poloniex leaving the U.S. There's things like that. And that's because there's not clarity. So Ripple calling for regulatory clarity does not mean that they're anti anything. Like, it doesn't mean they're anti Bitcoin or anything like that. In fact, Brad Garlinghouse, Ripple CEO, says he's long Bitcoin. So that's another reason this is all silliness. But we already know, and we heard from Ashish Burla, I can't remember his title off the top of my head, but he's one of the original Ripple employees. And he stated that the potential customers that could be utilizing XRapid, he recently stated this when he was posing a question to Hester Pierce with the SEC. He said, hey, look, there are banks that are really weary of utilizing crypto, especially within the United States, and a lot of the innovations going overseas as a result. And so it is holding Ripple back, but it's holding everybody back in the crypto space, regardless of whether they're proponents for XRP or not. So I firmly agree with J.C. Collins on this. As soon as we get regulatory clarity, and it does look like it's being discussed in a more sincere fashion than I've seen before, and I hope that everybody involved, regulators involved, really not just have thoughtful regulation, but hopefully move on it sooner than later. And I'm crossing my fingers on that last part. But we can certainly hope here. But once that happens, I absolutely think it's going to be good price-wise for XRP, because what does that mean? As there's more adoption with XRapid, that will bring more people in, because what do I keep saying about the part of the way the ecosystem works as XRP? Like, why invest in it? Especially if us as speculators, we don't even use it. I mean, maybe some of you do. I personally just store it, kind of like a store of value, really. But why be here? Why beer if it's not even getting used? Well, the truth of the matter is, as we see more developers building on top of the XRP ledger, all it does is just give us confidence that it's a smart place to put our money and that we're probably not going to lose it. And it doesn't mean that XRP or any crypto isn't a high-risk investment. I would categorize it as high risk, even though I'm very confident and I am Mr. XRP Bull, but I still think it's fair to categorize it as a high-risk investment because there's only a short history of XRP in crypto, a decade or less, depending on which crypto you're talking about, right? So that's right. But I'm going to be reporting on this as things unfold because this endlessly fascinates me. All right, last piece, and then I'm going to wrap up the video. This is from Cointelegraph, and it's titled, Judge Dismisses Libel Suit Against Roger Ver Over Lack of Jurisdiction. A justice of the High Court of England and Wales has dismissed a libel lawsuit against Bitcoin Cash proponent and Bitcoin.com CEO Roger Ver. Justice Matthew Nicklin of the Queen's Bench Division threw out the case earlier this week, according to a decision published on July 31st. Back in May, Craig Wright, an Australian computer scientist who claims he is Satoshi Nakamoto, the creator of Bitcoin, served Ver with a libel suit in London. Wright accused Ver of calling him a fraud and a liar, among other things. Justice Nicklin wrote, "The claimant has not satisfied me that England and Wales is clearly the most appropriate place to bring his action for defamation over the publications complained of. In consequence, the court has no jurisdiction to hear and determine the action. The action will be struck." So that kind of settles that, doesn't it? And the piece continues. According to Nicklin, the evidence presented led him to believe that England and Wales were purview to very little of the alleged defamation. Rather, the vast majority of the complaints supplied fall under the United States' jurisdiction. And here's another quote. "The evidence clearly demonstrates that the most substantial publication of the statements complained of is in the United States. It is common ground that, of the global publication, only some 7% took place in England and Wales." Indeed. And then the piece continues. While Nicklin offered jurisdiction as the primary grounds for dismissal, he also went on to discuss his doubts about the extent to which Ver actually libeled Wright. The judge wrote that the claim of harm due to the alleged publications is weak, lacks detail, and the 3 paragraphs I have set out put forward evidence at a level of generality that is almost entirely speculative. So there you go. That's the latest on that, so maybe that's completely squashed at this point. But that's all I got for you in this video. I am not a financial advisor. Do not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo!